In western Uganda, at the foot of the Rwenzori Mountains, lies one of the country's ancient kingdoms, the Kingdom of Toro. It is in here that Engabuza Toro, a local NGO, has promoted development through culture, in part by professionalizing cultural services to turn culture into a source of money as well as a source of pride. It has also encouraged women's participation in business and other activities, using culture and history to promote gender equity. This short film tells Engabuza Toro's story. For the king's 2 million subjects, culture has always been very highly valued. The monarch, for a start, is an important public figure who represents an institution to which people feel a sense of belonging and who helps them define their identity.
Our king is a symbol of our culture in the Kingdom of Toro. So the culture of Toro is ingrained in the kingdom, involving all the people of Toro. All the Batoro people are culturalists.
But culture also touches all sides of ordinary people's lives. At any function, for instance, dance and traditional music play an important part. No wedding, graduation, Thanksgiving, or anniversary is considered complete without a strong cultural flavor. But there have been problems too. However strong the people's attachment to their culture, sustaining these cultural values and practices has not been easy. And as more people go to attend such shows, fewer seek the services of the providers of traditional cultural services, traditional musicians and dancers, or advisors on cultural issues. With the ever-increasing poverty too, many Batoro realize the need to work hard on income-generating projects, such as agricultural activities. With time, therefore, providing cultural services became irrelevant to people's daily lives. With lack of interest, providing such services also became less profitable. Gradually, such work was being abandoned professionally. With lowering quality, anybody could become an amateur cultural service provider. Mzee Nyakairu tells us the story.
Currently, I provide cultural services, namely hiring out calabashes for local brew on official functions like marriage introduction. I also hire out vessels in which milk is served, the traditional milk jars. I hire out mats. Prior to that, people who are just getting tokens of appreciation generated hardly any income, and therefore they looked at them as unrewarding.
Cultural services were important not only to pass educative messages, but also to settle conflicts, to entertain, to promote moral values among the youth, and generally to preserve Toro's cultural heritage. With time, cultural providers were losing their sense of self-esteem, as well as their source of income. Little had been documented, and well-known cultural service providers had turned into charcoal burners.
Today, that many of the people that are coming up are not aware, are not knowledgeable of what our grandparents used to do, how they used to survive, how they used to live. We used to have many resources which we utilize at our homesteads. Even today, most of the resources that we have around can be utilized better. The beads, the dressings, very important things. The milk, we treasure cows here in this region. It is something we all believe in, we all respect, which can even lead you to marrying. getting a wife, getting a family.
But things were about to change. In 2003, Ingabza Toro, a local NGO born out of the enthusiasm of young graduates from the region, took an interest in using culture as a means of economic progress. Earlier, Ingabza Toro had organized training sessions to encourage business skills among the people. But it soon became obvious that few young people were interested in the agricultural projects that were on offer. They had other interests. So, Ingabza Toro decided to start several activities to reclaim the value of culture and to demonstrate that culture can also be a money-making business.
Culture was seen as a setback to modern development, as an obstacle, as something backward. We moved in to organize cultural services, commercialize those services, and professionalize cultural service providers. In other words, adapting culture in people's development.
An important part of the activities was to start a culture school and to train the providers of culture services who became known as culture consultants. Today, not only has Ingabza Toro trained its own culture troupe, it has also trained other culture consultants and practitioners who are renowned for their professionalism.
We have conducted classes organized by Ingabza Toro where we have shared with young people, particularly about conducting marriage introductions that befit the Toro culture. And the response has been good. The outcome is that now we have more cultural providers.
Nkaruga mu entrepreneurship promotion program na mbere natendekiro umukugo butalevomo nataha mu talent development program nekigenderero wangu ni nyenda itunge umulingo ugusobora kuzamu ikisembo cyange cyo kuzina nokukuza ubuhanga bwange nko mutoro kana muno umubizine byenzarwa ebinyenyumirizamu nko mutoro cyahikira muri no program abunahikiramo hatkasumukana mbere turukubaliza ninyo umuzine yasingire award no mudali amazina agenzaro eyo mukurora mu meso hano
hatsa zinu ndi mu Ingabza Toro naho ni nzina amazina ga culture hanyuma ekyansikiriza muno kujyamu akuba nyine talent impura nyine talent yo kuzina hati no sazinu kubaho sazinu kokundi abokuba mu kuzina.
Of course, not everybody has been successful. Some practitioners are too ambitious and feel they will acquire skills after a week or two. Others expect quick money and get discouraged when they do not get an immediate monthly fee, like other successful individuals. Others are not focused on the task. They have different interests, especially adolescents.
Toro Craft Center, actually we organize traditional wedding ceremonies whereby we provide items, traditional items that go with our culture for that particular ceremony. At the same time, we also train young girls, say school dropouts, in getting some skills in these, doing handcrafts of variety, which can eventually also earn them an income in the near future.
Ingabza Toro also turned its attention to developing a museum to highlight the importance of Wanu's heritage, but also to learn to safeguard it and to underline the dynamic nature of society.
We decided to set up the museum so that we can collect all the cultural materials that were not collected at that time in order to have them accessible to the public at any time people wanted them. And we also realized it was a source of income. EZT would generate some income for sustaining the Department of Culture and Development through tourism attraction. And from that time, we brought in this aspect. We've been getting a number of people coming to look at the museum and possibly hire some of the services, buy some of the items. We have a full package of cultural and traditional material in the museum. And we have plans of building an international museum.
With their increased skills, several service providers have seen their income grow. With professionalism comes money.
people are ready to spend the day, a good number of hours, providing these services so long as they are being paid well.
Ngoboroire mu kagenda ndeni habwe byobuhangwa twasinga omu bintu byete byobuhangwa omu Uganda yone kikopo tukakireta kiri mu district. Ngoboroiremu abantu bamanyire kandi nimpebwe kitinisa emikoro yokuswere takatandikire nibabanza kunyakaguzaho kike kyokukora kandi ntunga muna sente kugenda kukora mba mpangisibwe nihira mu sente nsomeseza abana bange nyombekera akaju kange nokaho nosanga ngu ebintu bino nomukayange naho biriyo.
As culture industries slowly regain their value in people's eyes, the effects could be felt not only with the service providers, but also with the communities they served. Demand for such services has increased.
Many times I've been hired to go to Rwanda, I've been hired to go to Kenya, I've been hired to go to Tanzania and other districts of Uganda for such a service like leading a delegation going in for an introduction. And I'm paid handsomely.
Many women in Toro excel in selling handcrafts and hiring out cultural items and traditional attire for ceremonial occasions. This increases respect for artifacts and their careful preservation at home.
Ndengere okutendeka abantu bandi nkomukaikuru ombazizi wekyalani ebyo bintu nibyo nsobera okugobora mulimo gwange kandi mulimo gwange ningugonza muno habwo mulimo gwange noikaroli mu myaka eyobuto habwo kuba noba notekereza nk'abato habwo kuba mulimo gwokwehangahanga noba noikara buli bwire bwona notekereza kiki kyokukora nabwo ekyo mulimo gwange ningugonza muno habwo kati nso okukaikura nitekereza nk'abaana abato.
Today, many Batoro are enriched by their traditions and their cultural heritage. People can then use cultural strength and consider culture as a great resource for development rather than a constraint. Rather than being backward, unprofitable and irrelevant, we can see that culture can also be a money maker. In that way too, we can ensure that culture meets our challenges of today.
Every 2 years, life in Toro comes to a standstill as people from all walks of life witness the crowning of Kogere. During this ceremony, 20 contestants from the 3 districts that make up the Kingdom of Toro compete for the Kogere Award. After intense analysis, the judges are ready with the results and the young Kogere is crowned. Engabuza Toro started this initiative in 2003 at a time when women were not participating much in the income-generating programs it had launched. When Engabuza Toro undertook research to better understand this low participation, it found that cultural norms excluded women from income generation and other forms of development initiatives. This reflected the status of women in Toro society. Men were in charge of the heavy work related to construction, cultivation for commercial gain, defense, and exploring new horizons. Women were therefore not expected to engage in business. They could not leave home, not attend meetings, not even go to markets. Men would do the shopping. Some communities hardly counted a single woman entrepreneur. In the past 20 years, government and NGOs have attempted to address gender imbalances by involving women in economic activities. But little was done to address women's inferiority complexes, especially in the rural areas, and decision-making often remained in the hands of men. The modern concept of gender that was introduced also tended to conflict with the culture and was perceived negatively by communities.
Now, as I talk, many women are involved in political positions, and not only political positions, but they have been sensitized and emancipated, and I appreciate that.
Appreciating this constraint, Engabuza Toro chose to adopt a cultural approach.
Looking at the women participation in modern development, we picked on a tradition of a heroine in enterprise and leadership, and used it to inspire women of today to participate competitively in development. And this is the Kogere Award program.
Each Kogere contestant works hard in the month before the final contest. This starts after potential candidates are identified by Engabo za Toro's village-based trainers and volunteers. The candidate must be a woman below 35 years who has initiated income-generating projects. Potential candidates must belong to a group with whom they work to improve their project. The selected women then attend workshops for 2 weeks.
The woman, that woman Kogere, they hold competitions and make sure that they portray the cultural aspect of our traditions in behavior, eating, dressing code, home education.
3 months later, potential Kogeres are assessed and finally an awarding ceremony takes place. Kogere receives a crown, a heifer, a full traditional attire and other benefits.
Kogere has now become a public figure. In 2005, Rehema Kobsinje emerged the winner of this much sought-after award.
Nkataha mukalitango ya Kogere nkaruraho Kogere okubanza nkoku yali akorakoreine naraba mu byenzarwa byaitu ebyatoro nkongera nayegamu kukora ebyengaro ninkwataniza na group y'abakyara omukyaro nturuke ebibo tunde enkwanzi ebyo ebintu ebyengaro byatuletera entashi mu maiso ninhera kandi ninkigumya nti nja kugumizamu na projects zange zinwe zinkukora ninzongeramu amani hizo nizo zirinyoleka kiki ekindukora mu busumbu mu maiso zimazire kukorakorana.
The Kogere Award has helped Engabo za Toro to change attitudes by building women's confidence and participation in development activities. Women are motivated to join the Kogere contest and to emulate Kogere qualities because this brings pride to their clan and family and they are associated with success. Kogere earns the respect of all members of the community and motivates many women to work harder.
Obunatahia mukalitango ya Kogere bakatera emisomo twagisoma emisomo egi nkanye nko mukyara nkegamu ebintu bingi nkegamu kwetandikira project nyine embuzi nzirisa nko kubatwegeseze nko kutusemera kuzirisa nhabweki buli mwaka nyine kutunda embuzi isatu nakora business yendi
mukalitango ya Kogere nkegamu omukazi nayiwe osokuba mwebembezi omukazi nayiwe osobora kukora ukatunga sente zisobora kurolera abanyabuzale bawe rundi abana bawe nayiwe neka yangu umuntu okebeisaho ekikyali kintu kikuru mu kandi ekindu kunihira ekindu kutekereza kukora mu bwira bwo mu maiso niko kwikara ninkozesa ebintu ebyenzarwa ninyegesa n'abakyara abandi n'abana abato nimbaguruminga kuruga hansi nibakozesa ebintu ebyenzarwa nuko basobole kutunga mu entasha.
Boys and girls aged between 4 and 14 years have also formed young Kogere clubs, at which they perform plays imitating the old Kogere and where the Kogere teaches them culturally acceptable public behavior. Kogere is today recognized as a celebrated cultural figure, following the cultural values of hard work and respectful conduct. The community perception towards gender has changed. Communities have responded positively because the approach has proved relevant to their perception of gender.
These programs, of course, get some challenges. And challenge number one is the Eurocentric mentality that anything indigenous in Africa is backward. So when you are using cultural approach in development, you have to work against that mentality as a big challenge. Cultural Kogere program also face other challenges like limited funding, because modern development actors have not fully recognized the cultural approach as an effective approach to development.
As a district local government of Kabarole, we believe if we are to propel development, achieve our overall goals, we need to look at culture, look at gender, and integrate it into development work.
In Toro, using a culture approach has proved effective, and Engabza Toro has achieved success, especially in recognizing culture as something that is easily understood and associated with, something to be proud of, and something that promotes the values of hard work and creativity.
Nimalira ningamba nti abakyara n'abaana abato abaisiki abakwimukiramu muleke kwetinira, muleke kunihira ngu obwokuba ebyosomere kuli byonka nibyo bisokubaisa nk'omwisiki rundi nk'omukazi. Ebintu byete ebyenzarwe bino mbitwemerezaawo.
So when we do all these activities, reconstructing, going back to understand how the culture was, I think we shall be instilling discipline and ethics amongst our population. The values of an African person, of a Mutoro, this can be reflected in all the programs that we have.
All in all, it is a very effective approach as it gives confidence to the people, it enhances creativity, it enhances mobilization skills, it enhances leadership skills, and indeed, it makes development people's development.
Debate Record.